Folks, I'd like to welcome you to the hands-only CPR training for health and physical education teachers. We're really happy to have you all here. This is extremely important information that can help you to impact lives of others, not only directly through, hopefully you don't have to use it, but in case you need to, you have the training that you need to take action. You also will have the turnaround training so that you can provide the direction and instruction to your students. You also can speak with your principal about providing a PD school-based for your staff. The more folks that have this training, the more lives that can be saved. So with that said, I'm actually going to stop sharing this particular screen. And we're going to move into another piece of information. I'm hoping that people will be able to hear it. I have my sound turned up as high as I possibly can. So please bear with me. What I'm going to share with you is a video that some of our colleagues in the high schools have used when they've introduced this particular unit. And I will be able to share the link with you further on. After this is all done, any of the links that you need to have access to, we will provide for you. Okay. Back here.
A high school volleyball game is underway outside Atlanta. The play is intense but friendly, then a moment of utter horror. A senior suddenly collapses. You can actually hear the thud as she hits the hardwood floor. She lies there, lifeless, as everyone runs to her side. The team is in full cardiac arrest. One coach performs CPR, but it's not working. It's looking grim for 17-year-old Claire Crawford. Then somebody rushes in with a defibrillator. There it is. It's in the black box. Sure enough, you can see Claire's body jolt from the electric charge. Julie Sermon is the quick-thinking school administrator who used the defibrillator.
Life started to come back in her, and it was wonderful to see.
And this is Claire today. It's a miracle. Claire says she was feeling fine during the volleyball play. Just seconds before she passed out, the ball came her way, and she hits it a good whack. But then something goes wrong. She's in distress and clutches her heart, then collapses. Can you tell us what her symptoms were?
I had pain down my left arm and my heart felt like it was working really hard, but I just assumed I was out of shape.
Claire's mom, Lisa, was in the stands watching the volleyball game.
We were just desperately praying. It was 4.5 minutes. I mean, it was a long time to watch them doing compressions, and definitely we thought we lost her.
Here's a defibrillator similar to the one that saved Claire's life. Analyzing the heart rhythm. It tells you everything. Yes. Do not touch the patient. Step by step, it will tell you exactly what to do. If it says stand clear, don't touch. This is one team who is truly lucky to be alive. Claire, how are you feeling now?
Feel good, better than before.
It's hard to watch real situations unfold. But being able to take action makes a big difference. Knowing that you're able to do something makes a big difference.
The pain started
Oh,
about
terribly
2
sorry.
years ago,
Sorry about that,
2 or 3
folks.
years ago.
I can only share with you that I lived through an experience with this with my father. Sudden cardiac death, dropped to the ground. Fortunately, he received immediate CPR and AED, and it maintained him. Different people have had different experiences. There's nothing worse than feeling helpless because you don't know what to do. So part of what our goal is through this training is to not only show you what to do, but also to give you information about how to use the materials that have been donated to us through the American Heart Association to teach our students and our colleagues how to take action. This is not certification. This is training. So please recognize the difference. When you go into your classes and you're teaching them the hands-only CPR, it is training. It's not a certification program. Okay? All right. I apologize, with no further ado, I'd like to introduce Tom Musati, who is here as a representative from the American Heart Association to take us through. He's been very kind and patient as we've gotten started. So Tom, thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. I think what we're going to do is I'll tell you kind of the agenda. Again, it's pretty informal, pretty relaxed. Like Nancy said, it's non-certification training. It's hands-only CPR training. You don't need to be an instructor to do it. Something you could share with family and friends, get as many people trained on how to handle a situation if one ever arose. So what we'll do is, I have the CPR kit behind me that hopefully all of you have received. I'm gonna go through the facilitator binder. I'm gonna go through the kit content, what's in the kit, you know, stuff you'll use, stuff you probably won't use. I'm gonna show you how to access the course online, because part of the kit content are DVDs and nobody has a DVD player. So you have 5 DVDs that you don't know what to do with. And then I'm gonna play you a video, and then I'm gonna show you inflate the mannequin, show you hands-only CPR, show you how to use an AED, and then we'll have some time for questions and answers or conversation. So let me show you the kit that I think everyone has. Okay, so it should have a big red bag. In it is a pump. We'll show you how to use that in a minute. Let's inflate the mannequins. You got these mesh bags. If you want to keep the mannequins inflated, you can keep them in that mesh bag. You have 10 of these kneel pads. So they're not kneeling on the gym floor, but they're pretty hard also, but they'll help a little bit. We have the facilitator guide that we're going to go through separately. You have 10 simulating AEDs with the pads, so we can show you that. And then I also have an AED here that I can show you how to use. And then you also have 10 inflatable mannequins, okay? Take that out, and that's going to be your mannequin, and we'll show you how to inflate that. On the back of the bag, there are directions on how to inflate the mannequin by rolling up the bag, and I wouldn't recommend that. I've tried it, and it's kind of cumbersome. Also, there's separate boxes with spare parts, and then the DVDs, but the spare parts are like the replacement lungs if you choose to give breaths with the mannequins, or replacement face masks if you need to replace those. So the pump is very simple. 2 pieces. Just plug one right into the bottom there. And every mannequin has, just like a beach ball, you're gonna need to connect this, take the pump right in there, and it's just a simple hand pump. And I always recommend get as much air in the mannequin as you can. It'll be easier to do compression. So that's your mannequin. They're pretty durable. Before we get going with the DVD or the video, I want to show you one thing on the mannequin to be aware of. Right at the end here, there's this tab that you need to pull out. It says soft or hard. Pull it all the way out, and when you do your compressions, that'll give you the instant feedback, the click that says you're compressing 2 inches. Okay, so a lot of this stuff is right in the manual, and it'll be on part of the video. But so you have this facilitator guide, and really it walks you through everything. It gives you lesson plans, tells you the pieces of the kit, and there's a spot in there for if you need to order replacement pieces, replacement parts, or if you need to replace a mannequin, it shows you how to do that. And then it talks about using lesson plans, and I don't need to go through all that with you. You guys are all professional teachers, and I'm sure you've done a million times. But there's some important things in here that you might want to take a look at. How to set the classroom up. Most CPR is done on the floor, but there's probably going to be a student or two that maybe has a bad knee, or a teacher or two that doesn't want to get down on the floor. So it'd be nice to have a table so that you can have the mannequins on there so you can practice your compressions. Again, it has the lesson plans and some tips in there, some common asked questions at the end. And then at the very end, there's a CPR first aid pre-test and a CPR first aid post-test. That is not mandatory by any means. That is entirely up to you. We will do a full evaluation. We're going to identify some schools and we'll do a full evaluation so we can get some information and share with the donor, the foundation that provided the funding for these kits. So that's that. I mean, again, it's a pre and post test. It's pretty basic. Personally, I think the most important part of hands-only CPR is that individual, is he or she comfortable doing compressions? Is he or she comfortable calling 911? And or is he or she comfortable using an AED? The AED is probably the one that has most people scared because they've seen it on TV where you administer a shock and the body contorts and bounces off the ceiling, and they make it a lot more difficult and scary than it really is. Matter of fact, the AED is probably the simplest tool out there. You press one button and all the prompts just walk you through it. I see some of you have inflating your mannequin, so that's great. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen, I think. And Nancy, can you allow me to share my screen?
Give that a shot, Tom. My apologies.
Okay, so can everyone see that?
Yes.
Yes.
So I sent the link into chat. Basically what it is you're going to go into ebooks.heart.org. And this is if you want to stream the course content. So you're going to ebooks.heart.org. And once it pulls up here in the left-hand corner where it says enter access code, you're going to put in CPR FA anywhere. Stands for CPR first aid anywhere. Okay. And that will bring you basically to the binder if you want to see the binder online, or it's going to bring you to the CPR first aid anywhere course. If you received a CPR school kit a couple years back, big red bag, 10 mannequins, etc., and now you've just received the CPR first aid anywhere kit, it's the same thing. There's just some additional course content that relates to first aid. So basically, it's the second iteration of the CPR kit. And then there's another one that's called First Aid Youth Sports, which is the same thing, but includes sports-related injuries and how to handle them and concussion protocol and things like that. So what we're going to do, again, you have the link to get into heart.org. You have the access code if you need it to watch the course online or to use the course video while you're teaching your class. So I'm going to go to watch online. And oh, there we go. Okay, I'm not going to play through everything. but we'll do a little introduction, then we will do the adult CPR and AED portion of it. I'll play that. And certainly if you choose to give breaths, or if you choose to teach giving breaths, although it's not required, you're more than willing to do so. I'm more than happy to do it. The mannequins that you have, once you give a breath, will show a chest rise. You can review and learn how to do choking for adults or child CPR and how to use an AED, and then choking in children. And then additional coursework for first aid and bleeding if you choose to watch that. We're just going to focus on the adult CPR and AED.
There's no volume on your video.
I'm sorry, there's no volume?
No, we can't hear it.
Maybe in your settings, if you go down onto the video screen itself. There's settings over to the right.
Yeah, go in there. No.
Not.
No.
When you share your screen, there's a spot where you can add sound.
Thank you, John.
Tom, you have to come back, stop sharing your screen, and then go back to share your screen, and to your left, you see sound. Share sound.
I don't see where it says sound.
When you click on share screen.
There you go. We got it.
Okay.
Let me know if you can hear it.
Suddenly, I was wide awake.
Yes.
I didn't have formal training in cardiopulmonary resuscitation, that's CPR, but I had learned some skills from the American Heart Association website and from scouting when I was a kid. At first, I was nervous, but there was no time to waste. Somebody needed help now. Outside, the adrenaline kicked in like a shot of espresso, and I knew exactly what to do. The customer had collapsed in a patio chair. I'll never forget his face. It was pale as a piece of paper. He wasn't breathing, moving, or responding. While someone called 911, I lowered the man to the patio. I remember thinking, I have someone in my arms who is dying, so I started CPR. I put both hands on the center of his chest and just started pushing, hard and fast. I kept doing chest compressions and breaths for about 2 minutes until medical help arrived. After medical help took over, I washed up, tied my apron on, and went back to serving coffee. But for the rest of my shift, I wondered how that customer was doing. Later, I found out he was a 66-year-old man named Mike. He survived his cardiac arrest and is doing well. I also found out that most people who witness a cardiac arrest either don't know CPR or are afraid to do it. So, they call 911 and then they wait. Medical help gets there as fast as they can. But in the United States, it still takes an average of 4 to 10 minutes for them to reach someone in cardiac arrest. That means receiving CPR from a bystander is a person's best chance to survive until medical help arrives. It also means any CPR is better than no CPR. My career goal is to be in law enforcement and to do search and rescue. But you don't have to be a medical professional to help save a life. By learning hands-only CPR, you too can be ready to help someone in cardiac arrest. It might even be a friend or a family member whose life is in your hands. On your next coffee break, why not take the time to learn hands-only CPR?
Make it full screen.
Welcome to CPR and First Aid Anywhere, presented by the American Heart Association.
I'll make it full screen.
Today, you'll learn some very important skills. You may not think you'll ever need to use these skills, but people just like you have saved lives with CPR. In this program, you're going to learn how to help save the life of an adult, a teen, or a child who needs cardiopulmonary resuscitation, also called CPR. Cardio means heart, and pulmonary means lungs. Cardiopulmonary resuscitation can help a person whose heart has stopped beating and pumping blood. Giving CPR and using an AED give a person in cardiac arrest the best chance of survival. AED stands for Automated External Defibrillator. If one is nearby, you should use it when you give CPR. The first method you're going to learn is called hands-only CPR, which means you only have to give compressions by pushing hard and fast in the center of the chest on the breastbone. You don't have to give breaths. After you've learned hands-only CPR, you'll have the option of learning CPR with breaths and choking relief for adults and children. Let's talk about how CPR saves lives and when a person needs it.
There you go.
Picture yourself giving someone hands-only CPR. The person is lying on the ground in front of you, and you're pushing hard and fast in the center of the person's chest. What is CPR doing to the body to help keep the person alive? Try to visualize how you think CPR is helping save this person's life. When you give compressions during CPR, you're acting like the heart, helping to push oxygen-filled blood to the brain and the rest of the body. This can help someone survive when his heart stops beating. You've probably heard the terms heart attack and cardiac arrest before. You might think a heart attack and cardiac arrest are the same thing, but they're not. In fact, there are some very important differences. The major difference between the two is that during a heart attack, the heart is still beating and pumping blood and the person is still alive. When the heart stops beating, the person is in cardiac arrest. During cardiac arrest, the heart has stopped beating and the person doesn't respond and isn't breathing normally. A heart attack occurs when a clot forms in a blood vessel carrying oxygen-rich blood to the heart muscle. When the heart doesn't get enough oxygen from the blood, the muscle starts to die. A person having a heart attack needs immediate medical treatment. If the blocked vessel isn't reopened quickly, the muscle normally nourished by that vessel begins to die. Typically, during a heart attack, the heart continues to pump blood, so the person doesn't need CPR. The longer the person with a heart attack goes without treatment, the greater the possible damage to the heart muscle. Occasionally, the damaged heart muscle triggers an abnormal rhythm that can lead to cardiac arrest. Heart rhythm refers to the sequence or pattern of heartbeats, whereas heart rate refers to the number of times the heart beats in a minute. Anytime the heart stops beating, it's called cardiac arrest. A heart attack isn't the only thing that might cause cardiac arrest. Problems such as severe injuries, drowning, and drug overdose can also cause cardiac arrest. Just remember, when a person's heart stops beating for any reason, that person needs CPR immediately. You might think cardiac arrest happens only to older adults, but the truth is, cardiac arrest can happen to anyone. It can happen to a young athlete, a family member of any age, or even a child or an infant. It's really scary to see someone whose heart has stopped beating. But if you phone 911 and start CPR immediately, you can help save that person's life. Don't be afraid of doing something wrong. This video will help you learn what to do so that you can give CPR and save a life. You just saw how a cardiac arrest can happen in a workplace. We're going to teach you exactly what to do. The first step is to make sure the scene is safe. Look around you to make sure you aren't in danger. Next, tap the person on the shoulders and shout something like, "Hey, are you okay? Are you okay?" If the person doesn't respond, you need to get help. Shout to see if anyone is nearby. Say something like, "Help! Somebody help me!" If someone arrives, tell that person to phone 911 now and get an AED if one's nearby. If no one comes to help you, you will have to phone 911 yourself. If you have a mobile phone with you, phone 911. Use the speaker mode while you talk to the dispatcher so that you can have both hands free to start CPR immediately. If you don't have a mobile phone, leave the person to phone 911 and get an AED yourself. The dispatcher will ask you some important questions, such as what's your exact location, so she can send help quickly and to the right place. If you're calling from a mobile phone, be very specific about your location so that medical help can find you easily. Don't hang up the phone unless the dispatcher tells you to. The dispatcher should help you remember and guide you through the steps of CPR and how to use an AED if one is available. Once you've called 911, you'll need to check if the person is breathing normally. Check for breathing for at least 5 but no more than 10 seconds. Look at the chest to see if it's rising as he breathes. If you see the person gasping, it's important to know that this isn't regular or normal breathing. A person who gasps usually appears to be drawing air in very quickly. He may open his mouth and move his jaw, head, or neck. Gasps may appear forceful or weak, and some time may pass between gasps because they usually happen at a slow rate. The gasp may sound like a snort, snore, or groan. If a person who doesn't respond isn't breathing normally or is only gasping, it's a sign of cardiac arrest and the person needs CPR. We've just demonstrated the steps leading up to CPR. Now we want you to practice those steps. Use your mannequin to practice along with the video while thinking about how you would use these steps in real life. You have just found Minnie Ann lying on the ground. First, make sure the scene is safe. Next, tap and shout. Hey, are you okay? Are you okay? Shout for help and practice sending someone to phone 911 and get an AED. Help! Somebody help me! You, phone 911 now and get an AED. You're not going to actually practice phoning 911 yourself. Check for normal breathing. Check for breathing for at least 5 but no more than 10 seconds. Great job! Now you know how to do all of the steps leading up to CPR. In your lifetime, you may have to perform compressions on a real person, acting like the heart and helping to push oxygen-filled blood to the brain and the rest of the body. Your quick and confident action can help someone survive when his or her heart stops beating. We're going to teach you how to give high-quality compressions. Watch first, then you'll get a chance to practice. Before giving compressions, make sure the person is lying on a firm, flat surface like the floor. To give compressions, kneel beside the person's chest. Move the person's shirt out of the way so you can see where to put your hands. Put the heel of one hand in the center of the chest, on top of the breastbone, and put your other hand on top of the first. Keep your hands in the center of the chest and push hard, straight down. Make sure to push the chest down at least 2 inches. Push fast at a rate of 100 to 120 compressions per minute. Let the chest come back up completely after every compression. If you bend at the waist and keep your arms straight, you can use the weight of your upper body to compress deeply. Keep giving compressions until the AED arrives, medical help takes over, you physically can't continue, or the person starts to respond. It's time for you to practice compressions. Although we're just practicing today, you may need to use these skills in the future to save the life of a family member, a friend, or even a stranger. Put Minnie Ann on the floor and kneel beside her. Put one hand on the center of Minnie Ann's chest, and then put your other hand on top of the first. Keep your hands in the center of the chest and push straight down, hard enough that you can hear Minnie Ann click. Now, listen to this beat. The beat is telling you how fast to push. Compress to the beat. If you're pushing hard enough, you'll hear Minnie Ann click. Keep compressing to make sure that you know how hard you need to push. If you can't make Minnie Ann click, that's okay. Just push as hard as you can. Now you're ready to practice giving compressions. When the music begins, start pushing down hard in the center of Minnie Ann's chest, making sure you push the chest down at least 2 inches. You should hear the click each time you give a compression. Push fast at a rate of 100 to 120 compressions per minute, and let the chest come all the way back up after each compression. The music will help you practice pushing fast. Keep giving compressions until the music stops. Get ready to begin practicing compressions. Push down at least 2 inches. Listen for the click. Keep pushing hard and fast. Let the chest come all the way back up after each compression. Did you hear Minnie Ann click with every compression? If so, great job. That means you are pushing hard enough to keep blood moving through the body. This is one of the most important steps in hands-only CPR. Congratulations, you've learned how to give compressions. Now we're going to put all the skills we've learned so far together in sequence. Here's a scenario. You're at a farmer's market, shopping with friends, when a customer suddenly collapses. Use your mannequin and follow along with the video to practice all the steps you would do to perform hands-only CPR. First, make sure the scene is safe. Next, tap and shout. Hey, are you okay? Are you okay? If the person doesn't respond, shout for help. Help! Somebody help me! Phone 911 and get an AED if one is available. You, phone 911 now and get an AED. Check for normal breathing. Begin compressions. You're going to practice giving compressions for 1 minute. Follow along with the beat. Push down at least 2 inches. Listen for the click. Let the chest come all the way back up after each compression. Keep giving compressions until the music stops. If you can't push hard enough to make Minnie Ann click, that's okay. Just keep pushing down hard on the chest and keep trying. In a real emergency, you'll give compressions until the AED arrives, medical help takes over, you physically can't continue, or the person starts to respond. Giving CPR right away increases the chance that a person will survive a cardiac arrest. You've learned that it's important to get an AED if one is nearby. Now, let's discuss why. An automated external defibrillator, or AED, can be used to treat cardiac arrest by delivering an electrical shock. An AED reads or analyzes the heart rhythm and then tells you if a shock is needed. Many airports, shopping malls, workplaces, and other public places now have AEDs you can use to treat cardiac arrest. If one is available, have someone phone 911 and bring you the AED. AEDs are often mounted on walls and have visible signs posted near them to help you locate them. By the end of this section, you'll be trained on how to use an AED. Using an AED is safe. It can't shock someone unless he or she really does need it. You only need to remember to turn it on and follow the prompts. Once you turn it on, the AED will tell you everything you need to do. Some AEDs will turn on automatically when you lift the lid. Others will require you to push the on button. After that, just follow the prompts you see and hear. Attach pads to the victim's bare chest. Some AEDs have both adult and child pads. For children 8 years of age and older, use the adult pads. Plug in pads connector. Analyzing heart rhythm. Pause to let the AED analyze. Loudly state, "Clear," and make sure that no one is touching the person. Shock needed. Loudly state, "Clear," and make sure that no one is touching the person. Then, press the button to deliver a shock. Shock delivered. If an AED is available, use it. It's safe and easy, and it can increase the chance of survival for a person who is in cardiac arrest. If you send someone to get an AED, ask the person to use it immediately while you continue giving compressions. Tell the person to turn it on and follow the prompts. Here's your chance to practice using the AED simulators. Push the on button. Apply pads to victim's bare chest. Follow the diagrams on the pads to apply them to your mannequin's chest. Plug in pads connector. Analyzing heart rhythm. Pause to let the AED analyze. Loudly state, "Clear." Shock needed. Loudly state, "Clear," and make sure that no one is touching the person before you press the shock button. Then, press the button to deliver a shock. Shock delivered.
Okay,
I have a question.
go ahead.
So in the one video, it said to, when you're giving CPR with no breath, that said clear the shirt away, right? It was a button down for a man. But what if it's like a pullover and you don't have scissors to cut it? What do you do?
You're using the AED or compressions?
No, it was just the guy just using the compression.
Okay, so when you're doing hands only CPR, if you're just doing compressions, it's okay to go over clothing as long as it's not like a big heavy parka or something. But for the use of the AED, the pads, the AED pads need to go onto skin. So you're gonna need to remove clothing, whether you can cut it off or, you know, if it's a turtleneck or something, pull it off. But you're gonna need to put the pads on the skin, okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So there's more to the DVD or more to the video. It gets into choking and a bunch of other things. You may want to watch those. And I don't know if while they were doing the compressions, if anyone was practicing, but as you show that video to your students, you know, what you're most comfortable with. If you want them practicing on their mannequins while you're showing it, that's great. I typically will pause and then go around the room while they practice their compressions, check to make sure you're hearing clicks, check to make sure their arms are straight and that they have good form and posture while they're doing their compressions. But that is entirely up to you. If you're more comfortable running the video while they're practicing, that's fine. Questions?
Yeah, how long was the DVD?
I think that portion that we were just watching goes another 3 or 4 minutes. If you include adult choking and child choking and the first aid components, it's probably another half hour in there. So it's probably a good 45 minutes of video content. But to meet the high school graduation requirement for the state of Pennsylvania, the CPR, adult and child, and use of an AED is what's required. But certainly if you have time and want to go further, that's great. So we good for a minute, and I'll show you. Okay, I'll show you the mannequin and that you already saw, but I'll show you what I do. So typically I have everyone inflate their mannequins using the pump or have them inflated before the students come on site. And at the bottom, like I showed you, the on-off or soft hard clicker. Straight across the nipple line, about 1.5 inches up from the sternum is where you're going to place the heel of your hand. And you got to make sure you get that heel down there so that you have good contact, and you don't want your hand flattened out because you won't hear that click. Heel of the hand, lock in the other with your elbow straight at the rate of 100 to 120 compressions per minute. And you will do that until paramedics arrive, someone shows up with the AED, you get a response. And they mentioned in the video where you get too tired. Well, when you inflate your mannequins, I want everyone to practice sometime before you teach the class. Do compressions at the rate of 100 to 120 compressions per minute. Do that for 2 or 3 minutes. You will get tired. And remember, an ambulance may not arrive in there for 6 to 10 minutes on average. So you're going to be doing this for 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes. So you're going to get tired. Give yourself a 10, 15 second break, around 10 seconds actually. Catch your breath and then get back to it. It's important that you give quality compressions. If there's someone nearby, drag them over and say push hard and fast in the center of the chest. As long as we're pushing down, pumping blood, you are going to increase that victim's chance of survival, okay? So a couple quick things. As soon as you're able to, start pushing hard and fast in the center of the chest. And as soon as the AED shows up, whether it's from the paramedics or someone went to get it or you got it, begin using the AED. So, you know, in the video and in the kit, you have this with the pads, and you know, they showed you when you press the on button, it prompted you. These don't prompt. That was from the video. If you have a test AED or a demo AED like I have, use that. Make sure you know where the AEDs are in your facility. So I'm going to show you how to use an AED, just like the video did. So be doing my compressions. When the AED arrives, first thing I do is turn it on.
Apply pads to patient's bare chest. Plug in pads connector next to flashing light. Apply pads, plug in connector.
So the pads are applied, plug in connector for the flashing light.
Analyzing heart rhythm. Do not touch the patient. Shock advised. Charging. Stay clear of patient. Deliver shock now. Press the orange
You
button
can see the orange
now.
button flashing.
Shock delivered. Begin CPR.
And that is it. The pads go lower left, upper right. And you saw in the diagram in the video how it crosses the diagonal. That's what you want so that it shocks the heart. And then after it gives a shock, it says begin CPR. So you go back into doing your compressions. And then about 2.5 minutes with the pads remaining on the victim, the AED will go through the whole scenario again, say analyzing heart rhythm. And if the victim needs another shock, it'll say administer a shock. So it goes about 2.5 minutes before it starts analyzing the victim again. The AED will not give a shock to someone who does not need one. Okay?
Question.
Sure.
So this eliminates the mouth-to-mouth CPR? Or
yeah.
when should we do the mouth-to-mouth CPR?
Yeah, so a couple things. Mouth to mouth is still practiced when you go get certified. So if anyone were to get certified, you're going to do compressions and you're going to give breaths, okay? What they did years ago when they weren't getting a lot of bystander responses, they said, they did a bunch of studies and found that pushing hard and fast in the center of the chest was as effective as doing both, giving compressions and breaths for an extended period of time. There becomes a point where the oxygen in the blood becomes depleted, so you should give breaths. The other point to make is 80% of cardiac arrest happens at home, 70–80%. So you probably want to give breaths if it's going to be a family member, a loved one, or someone you care about. You're probably going to want to give breaths. A lot of bystanders were reluctant to give breaths, back when AIDS was prevalent and people just weren't responding, so no one was doing anything. We at least wanted bystanders to get involved, call 911, push hard and fast in the center of the chest. Again, just doing that will double or triple that person's chance of survival. So to answer your question, if you want to give breaths, by all means. And if you do, and I reached down to get my mannequin. And if you do want to give breaths, it's very simple. You'll do your compressions, gentle head tilt, and you can see right here. So this is going in and it's going to show a chest rise, hopefully. So gentle head tilt, pinch the nose. And you'll give 2 breaths. I don't know if you can see the chest rise, but it's that simple. Then you go back to compressions. If you don't see a chest rise, don't worry about it. Just give 2 breaths, compressions. Okay, so getting any oxygen in there is going to be a help, just like doing compressions is going to be a help. Okay. But they did not do away with compressions. I'm sorry, they did not do away with breaths. It's just part of the certification course now.
Thank you.
You betcha.
There's another question. It says, should we show with a real AED?
I'm sorry?
There's a question that says, should we show using a real AED or showing the real AED? And I can jump on that one, Tom, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So I think that it's important that our students know what the live AEDs look like in our buildings, and they should know where they're located. We should also explain to them they're not a toy. Because they are a life-saving piece of equipment. And so they should be taught to respect it in that way. There are differences among AEDs. There are some that require for whoever's performing the CPR to actually push the button to deliver the shock once it's been determined that a shock is required. The G5s, the cardiac G5s that we have in our buildings do not require us to push a button. So if you're using the training cards or if you have any trainer AEDs, they may not look the same as the G5s. So it is important, and it's a good idea for them to get to know what our AED machines look like, the live ones. I'm not saying you should take them out of their case or their container into your class, because heaven forbid, at the same time, somebody has an emergency. But you know, you could also take pictures of things like that. Any specific questions that you have about the AEDs, the live AEDs in our building, if you could shoot me an email, I can give you a little bit more personalized information and response to those things. But what I will say to you is this is just general knowledge and practice for everybody in the building. Nurses have taken the lead with regard to oversight of AEDs in a lot of buildings. That does not mean that they should be the only people who are looking to see if the AED machines are ready to go in case of an emergency. As you walk past an AED, take a look at it. Our AEDs, the G5s, should show on the upper right-hand side a green circle. If they're showing orange or red with an X, that means that there's a problem. You need to check to see what the expiration date is for the pads and the battery. And if by chance you need to have a replacement, then you need to contact Star Davenport, and I'm putting her contact information in the chat. Tell her what school you're from, the type of AED machine you have, and what you need. There are some schools that still have not as up-to-date AED machines. If that's the case also, please, please, please let Star know that as well. If you have multiple AEDs, she may not give you a new G5 for every, it's not gonna be a one-to-one because they cost a lot of money, but you know, they'll trade out what they can. We do have some trainer AEDs that our office uses for when we do the certifications. If you are teaching a unit and you are saying to me, hey, Nancy, I'm doing the session, I'm doing it on Thursday. Can I swing by and pick up a couple of the trainer AEDs? I will lend them, folks, but they can only be for during the time that you're doing the actual training, because we don't have an endless supply and other people in the buildings need to use them as well. So yes, we do have access to those. Tom, thank you for your patience on that.
No. What else? Any other questions? So
maybe I missed this, but are we ever going to have an opportunity to renew our certification that was done 2 years ago?
So Miles, so that was something I sent an email out about. We are currently in discussions with legal departments, between our legal department and Red Cross legal department. Until that agreement has been made, we can't do any trainings.
So we just have to do it on our own then?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Some of the questions you might get from your students while they're doing this is, you know, can I hurt the person? Can I break their ribs? And what we always say is there's a very good possibility, especially in an elderly patient or elderly victim, that you could break some ribs or do some damage. However, any physician, nurse, doctor will tell you, continue with CPR because they can fix all of that. For all intent and purpose, that individual is not going to survive. So it's okay to go ahead and do compressions and run the risk of a minor injury. Some other questions you may get, can I get sued? We get that a lot. Can I get sued if I hurt that person? Everyone is protected by Good Samaritan laws. So you're fine to do the CPR. Those are usually two of the common ones. You know, am I going to do damage or am I going to get sued? So you may come up with those. And there's some other ones in the binder that you have that comes with the kit with questions and answers on typical questions and answers from students. Anything else? Okay.
So we have about 4 minutes until we will be sending out or sharing out the surveys and the attendance link. There are a couple of other items that are actually here. There's a question about whether or not we can use our you can use your $200 allotment on the trainer AEDs. You can use your $200 allotment on any instructional aids and resources. So if, you know, it's a great use of money. There are a number of places that you can look for those things, and you can reach out to me through email, and I can help put you in touch with some folks that we have vendor agreements with at this point in time. Let's see what else. There is a pre-test and a post-test that exists in the documents. Just so you know, folks, during this particular session, I sent an email out to all the health and PE teachers with the links that you need to access the binder, to access the videos, and to, you know, you'll find within the binder information, the pre and post test. Keep in mind, depending upon the age group or the grade levels you're working with, the reading levels, there might be some students that it's appropriate to use the written tests. And there are some students that you're going to want to just ask them questions or have them demonstrate things and explain as they're going through. So just using your professional judgment, that's what you can, you know, that's one thing that you have available to you. Are there any other questions?
Nancy, put the link in again for them one more time.
The link for what?
The ebooks or whatever it's called.
So that actually I sent through an email.
Oh, okay.
So everybody's got that information in an email with all the links. It even says, please save, so that you'll have that for when you get around to teaching, okay?
Okay.
Was that email only sent to high school teachers?
No, sent to all health and physical education teachers.
I didn't receive it. I'll put my email in the chat.
Hi, Nancy. I have a question.
Sure.
So I've been talking to the nurse here at school. And so I really would like to get an AED installed in the gymnasium on the wall. This is my concern is our AED is not always easily accessible. It's accessible during the day, but
for athletics,
if our school secretary leaves,
right,
the other extra one is in the office. So I really, really want one installed in the gymnasium for easy access when we have practices.
So what I would suggest is that you reach out to Jimmy Lynch in athletics, for those folks that don't know Jimmy's name. And I don't know if they have additional units or if he might be able to encourage relocating the AED machines to higher need areas. Because the reality is, even during the school day, the first folks who run are the health and PE teachers.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we know this. So we want to make sure that these things are available. Also with the high incidences of activities and movement, we tend to be the ones. Okay, so I would ask you to reach out to Jimmy Lynch. And for those folks that don't have Jimmy's email, let me put that in also. Jimmy leads our athletics office, for those folks that don't know.
Nancy, would that be for me as well, where our gym is on the opposite end of the school, or the main office and the nurse's offices?
Yeah, I would reach out to Jimmy also. You know, so just keep in mind that, you know, there are going to be some situations where they may say no, they don't have enough to merit that for a particular school population. However, we can be kind of persuasive when we speak to your building administrators, and sometimes we can help with things of that nature as well.
All right, thank you.
But Jimmy's a good person to start with. There will be an attendance and a survey link shared in just a moment. I'm going to stop the recording, but I'd like to just take a moment to thank Tom for his time and his energy, and also his support in getting 100 kits out between the end of August and the beginning of September. He's been instrumental with regard to that, so it's appreciated.
You bet. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate everything you guys do.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Have a great weekend.
You
Appreciate
too.
it.
You too.